Greetings sailors and welcome to a Warships viewer replay. This time I've got a Fletcher game for you, the Tier 9 American destroyer, courtesy of the excellently named ZombieCheeze here. Now he's got pretty good matchmaking as you can see, except there are carriers in the mix, and so that might be a bit of a problem. Especially as the enemy carrier is a Lexington, it's an American Tier 8 carrier. Those have pretty good dive bombers. And that might be an issue for him as a destroyer. But, you know, enough foreshadowing. Let's talk about the Fletcher itself a little bit. Now, I don't have one. I'm nowhere close to having it. But I do know, and assuming that this is a fully upgraded one, the gun range is pretty decent. The torpedo range is not bad. It can quite easily stealth torpedo. If it's the top torpedoes, I think they're 10.8 kilometers. The gun range without any kind of modification is 12 point something kilometers, nearly 13 kilometers. If he's got AFT, obviously that'll be higher. And in terms of his camo rating, well, I think he must have a 5-point captain on this, or a 5 skill captain on this this ship, because the base detection range is something like 7.5, 7.4 kilometers, but you'll notice he isn't getting spotted until around 6 kilometers. Now obviously he's got camo on, and I guess concealment system. High tier destroyers get concealment system, don't they? Yeah, of course they will do. So all that plus the 5-point captain skill, I would guess, takes his camo, his concealment value down to around about 6. So he can get really quite close to the enemy, more than close enough to drop these torpedoes in the water. I'm not sure if that is the narrowest spread when looking at the torp drop indicator, or if that is just a replay derp where it looks like he's doing a really wide spread. That might actually be the spread that it shows you, the narrowest spread with these Fletcher torps. I don't know. But anyway, he's about to maybe get some hits. He's put a wave out towards those enemies, but there's not that many that are within range, because even though you can still, well, you can stealth drop these torpedoes, they don't have a huge range compared to, say, the Kagero. And there's obviously something down there that's dropping torpedoes in his direction as well, because, yeah, that's a couple of waves that just went by. More unwelcome news, oh, there we go, it gets a top bit. More unwelcome news is that there are a whole bunch of planes getting quite close. This enemy Lexington driver was being really quite troublesome the whole game, and you can see there the Fubuki will have been spotted. He is getting the hell out of the way, but he's still been spotted, and although these planes aren't coming for him now, this is still dangerous because that's a lot of ships there. So his torps are nearly back up, and he actually, because I think he's nearly in cover, I mean the Fubuki, not Fubuki, Ibuki rather, and the Hipper are still able to shoot him, but he turns on his AA in the hope of getting a couple of planes maybe, but it's destroyer AA. So if he does get any plane kills, he's going to be quite lucky. He does also dodge a couple of salvos there, so a couple of people taking notice of him just as he was pulling into the safety of the cover of that island. So it was a little risky turning off his turning on his AA rather, but if he was going to be spotted by planes anyway, he might as well harass them a bit, I suppose. Now they've lost a battleship already, which is not so great. He's rather far forward along with the Fubuki, but the fact that there's planes going back and forth across them, overhead rather, it really is ruining any chance they have of being stealthy. And there we go, it actually does get a kill there. So this is really quite risky. They know he's here. I mean, they knew he was here anyway from all the torpedoes in the water. But if the Lexington is going to continue to focus on this side, this is not going to be easy at all. This is not going to be easy. So he's re-stealthed. He's just waiting for his torps to come back up, and he's actually going to try and make a drop on what's closest. Looks like maybe this Colorado he's got in mind. This replay was derping a little bit. I mean, possibly in terms of the width of the torp drops, torp drop indicators, but also he is actually focusing on different ships than the actual lead indicator is showing. So that's definitely a replay derp. That's a known thing. So both lots out, and he might get this Colorado, who is sailing fairly broadside right now. There's also incoming torpedoes from the Fubuki, so he's got those to be slightly wary about. Wouldn't do to get team damaged by... well, that would be unfortunate. But sometimes people... I mean, sometimes mistakes happen, but sometimes people make drops that just leave you face-palming because you wonder why. And actually, I've had a couple of games recently where the only reason I didn't get friendly torpedoed was because somebody else killed me just an instant before the friendly torpedoes arrived. And the reason it sticks in the mind is because it's happened twice within like 4 days or something. It's slightly unusual, but there it is. So another hit. He's not done a lot of damage so far. I'm not actually sure if he's got the upgraded torps or not on this. I think these will be, but maybe not. It's actually a little hard to tell the exact range from the minimap, because there's not that much between them, but the stock torpedoes are quite slow. They're like 55 knots, whereas the upgraded torpedoes, which are upgraded in every way basically, they do more damage, they've got better range, they've got better speed. Slightly longer reload, I think, but or maybe they don't actually, maybe I'm wrong about that, but yeah, it's one of those ones where it's a clear-cut upgrade. Some destroyers, you get a choice of, well, these torpedoes do more damage but they're slower, or these torpedoes, you know, they're slower but they have more range or whatever. So sometimes it's not so clear-cut, sometimes it's more of a personal preference, but it doesn't look like it in the case of the Fletcher. At least according to the wiki. I'm going by the wiki here. I'm trusting that the wiki is correct and isn't lying to me, which does occasionally happen. So he may get some hits into the Colorado. The way he is pointed means that dodging these wouldn't be too difficult, but actually he really isn't in the mindset of there's a destroyer ahead of me, and so he sucks 2 down there. So that's quite a reasonable amount of damage that's now been done, but despite having lost most of his allies, he's not done yet. This flank really has been pushed back fairly hard, but he's continuing to just do what he can to harass the enemy, drop torpedoes in their path, and just generally be a pain. Now, he has ventured a little too close to that Colorado to his south, and that might be a problem, except they seem to be largely ignoring him. And there we go, more torpedoes. That guy has no excuse. That guy knew he was here. So, I don't know. Although he is, at this point, re-stealthed, he decides to open fire because this other Colorado is very low health. So this must have seemed like a pretty acceptable risk at this stage. And like all US destroyers, this has got a very, very fast rate of fire. The range isn't terrible. But in terms of HE fire chance, I mean, I think it's the Japanese destroyers that always win out tier per tier. But in terms of just the rate of fire and, more importantly, the turret turn time, it's American destroyers that usually come out best. Now, it's at this point the Lexington goes for him, and okay, that's just a critical on the torpedo tube. That's not too bad. But this Lexington isn't done yet, so we've still got 2 more waves of torp bombs to come in. So, gets a turret critical. And here comes the 3rd wave. There's also... oh, wow, okay, he's lost half his torpedo tubes. That's not good. He's only got 1 set of torp tubes left now. So here come the 3rd bombers. He actually takes some damage and gets set on fire. And the torpedo bombers are going to come in behind them. Now, in terms of whether that was a manual drop or not, I don't actually know. I mean, dive bomb drops are really quite RNG, even if you do a manual spread. Even if you've got a manual spread and you more or less cover the entire ship, it is still really quite RNG. But the torp drop, well, it's not that difficult to avoid a torp drop in an American destroyer. They're more dangerous to Japanese destroyers. But in this case, because the Lexington's got those 3 dive bomb squads, this could be a problem. He knows that ZombieCheeze is still sailing around in this area, trying to harass these battleships that are pushing up this flank. So maybe he'll be back. We'll see. So he's down to 1 torpedo launcher now. He can still put out, I think that's 5 torps, but it's halved his torpedo firepower. This is bad. In terms of the actual team list as well, I mean, they're ahead on points at the moment. They've actually got a Fubuki trying to cap the enemy cap circle. And there we go, another 2 hits. Not bad at all. But it's still looking quite even. It's not looking like this is a runaway success. They've actually got 2 ships over on the 10 line that don't seem to be... actually, no, I tell a lie. That is the map trace for the Shikaku. Wow, just ignore everything I said in the last, like, 5 seconds. Anyway. No, there aren't 2 ships on the 10 line. That's complete nonsense. Anyway. It's hard to tell sometimes looking at the preview mini-map quite what's, like, the finer details maybe escape you. Anyway, he smokes up again, and this time he is going for the guy who he knows that this guy will have repaired, used his damage control because he's flooded. So if he can get a fire going on this North Carolina, it's going to be particularly devastating. And if he can get multiple fires going, he can take this guy down with just his guns, even though the North Carolina, he's still got a reasonable whack of health left. But there we go, we can see the fire. He must have at least a double fire going at this point. He's also taking shots from elsewhere, so he's really in serious trouble. So this was a little risky, but well worth it as it turned out. So that's a second kill. However, there is also a much healthier North Carolina that's now in very close proximity, probably within spotting range. So the moment this smoke dissipates, this is an issue. And of course, because no one else is close enough to spot this guy, he can't see him himself. Smoke works both ways. His vision is being blocked also. So he goes forwards, and yep, he's only just over 5 kilometers away. So he puts torps out and doesn't quite put them on the marker, anticipating that the guy will turn to evade because, hey, it's a destroyer at very close range. It doesn't also take him that long to get out of spotting range. So he's avoided taking any damage. He's actually managed to... He used his speed boost here, which was absolutely the right time to use it. But he's avoided taking any damage out of that. So that was a fairly neat bit of manoeuvring, I think. It also maybe would have done to put his torpedoes a little ahead of the marker instead of a little bit behind, because he does get 1 torpedo hit. But this guy's still got a lot of health, and he's still sitting there being annoyingly healthy. Meanwhile, on the rest of the map, I haven't really been paying that much attention to it, but again, it's still quite even. This was a fairly even game all the way along. They're ahead on points, and I think they were ahead on points for quite a lot of this game, but not so much as to be an insurmountable lead. Now here come the planes again, and yep, it looks like he was just scouting around, but he's decided, okay, no, he's going to go for ZombieCheeze again. So here come the dive bombers. Critical on the torpedo tube, which is annoying because it means he is basically going to have to wait for it to repair and then wait for it to fully reload again. Being lit up by the planes also means that he has been spotted for the North Carolina, so he's just taken a bunch of damage there. That is unfortunate. And it does look like it was just the one dive bomber squadron scouting his position, but maybe there will be more on the way. So I think he just figured, hell with it, I'm going to fire at this guy. And because the North Carolina was about to... I mean, he is trying to escape down the 4 line, and that means he's going to break cover with the islander there. But again, he knows the guy's used damage control party, so if he can set some fires, which he set at least 1 fire, and he's also taking hits from elsewhere, and there we go, he actually gets the kill. Now, I don't think he did all of the damage there. That was, I think, too short of a period of time to have accounted for the rest of that North Carolina's health. Somebody else got some hits in, and then it was that ticking fire damage that finished him off, basically. But we've come down to 4 versus 3 now. And this has been a very close battle in terms of the numbers of ships all the way along, and as time's now running out, that is, you know, still very much the case. It's himself, this York, who is really very low health, the Kiev, who was going after the carrier but unfortunately is going to get killed by the carrier, and of the enemy team, well, it's the Atago and the Admiral Hipper, who are now pushing up the 5 line. Although it really is the Hipper in the lead, the Atago is a bit further back. So there goes the Kiev, unfortunately. which evens things out score-wise. The enemy team are quite close. It's less than 100 points between them now, and if the York goes down, that's going to close the gap even further, and I can't see how the York wouldn't go down just because he's so low health. And there he goes. So the enemy team are now ahead on points. Oh dear, it is now just ZombieCheeze and the allied carrier. And you can bet once the planes have cycled, the Lexington is also going to be getting back in on the action. But before we get to that stage, we've got the incoming Admiral Hipper to deal with. This is going to be a cruiser at very close range. And, well, he's got 50 seconds on his torque reload, so this is going to be tricky. He does have smoke available, though. He's also got the allied carrier going in for a drop there, and, well, if he gets some hits, that will be helpful. But actually, no, he was going to be out to go. So again, he smokes up, opens fire, and actually sets a fire. And now he's onto his AP shells, which, at this angle, I'm not sure they're going to do that much damage. But, I don't know, it depends. If it was broadside, then yes, but anyway. So, I mean, the Hipper knew he was going to be here. The Hipper's also got torpedoes, so it's not like ZombieCheeze can just sit here. And back to the HE, by the way, so there we go. He's also just about to get his torpedoes back, but still, this is really quite risky, and he's taking a fair whack of damage. But there we go, 2 kilometers range. These can't possibly miss. It's a question of will he survive long enough. So, oh, torpedoes in, there we go, fantastic, the Hipper's down, the Atago, however, is still alive, and here come the enemy carrier's planes. Now it looks like, oh dear, now he's just lost both sets of torp tubes. Doesn't have any torp tubes left at all now. So, yeah, the Shikaku has got some fighters left, but as you can see, it's only a half squadron, so that's not going to protect him that much. The dive bombers, the torp bombers rather, miss their mark, and as I said earlier, it's not that easy at all to hit a Japanese destroyer with the torp bombers if you know what you're doing. But there's still several squads of dive bombers to contend with, so this is all in the hands of RNGesus now. Takes a hit, immediately extinguishes the fire, but that was only one squad. Those allied fighters are doing what they can, and of course, we're in the dying seconds, by the way. Look at this, 5 seconds. We are ahead on points, but no! No, we're not. Oh, this was so close. This was so close. This was literally a last-second loss. The enemy Lexington just clinched the win by managing to hit him with that last set of dive bombers in literally the last 2 seconds of the game. And that had to be incredibly galling for ZombieCheeze, because he has done so much. And if you look at some of what the rest of his team did, well, maybe some of them got unlucky, but when you consider the damage totals, he did nearly 200,000 damage. Just shy, in fact, of 200,000 damage. You kind of then feel like if he was doing this much and it was still this close and it came down to that one final torp drop in the last couple of seconds, if one or two of his teammates had pulled their weight just a bit more, I think that could have been a win. I'm not quite sure what ZombieCheeze himself could have done there more than he did. Nearly 200,000 damage, and it was, I don't know, some teams just don't want to win, but at least it was close. However, maybe that makes it worse, I don't know. I mean, sometimes the close ones are almost more painful than the ruffle stomps. But at least in the close ones, at least with matches like that, you can feel like you've done something. Whereas in the ruffle stomps, they're often over so quickly that it's just like, it feels like a waste of time. So it was a hell of a match. It really was. It just was so unfortunate that it wasn't a win, and it came down to literally the last 2 seconds. So, yeah, when it's a high-tier game, like I think I said at the start, it catches my eye because I don't get sent a lot of these high-tier replays. But when it's a game like this, oh boy, oh boy. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you weren't too disappointed by that ending, because it was a hell of a game, despite that nail-biting, that horrifying almost ending. And if you did enjoy it, well, you can leave any comments below, you can hit the like button, you can sub to my channel if you want already, and as always, stay tuned for more.